the embodiment of disaster, the source of plague, hell horse. It only has 3 legs, symbolizing disease, famine, and death. Its pitch-black body emits a foul, fishy odor, but its head is a ghastly white skull. Hersheiser summoned it, and it let out a shrill bray, then rushed toward the dragon in the sky, carrying endless poison. The dragon roared loudly and spat out dragon flames. However, the poison carried by the hell horse was like a huge wave. In such an environment where the poison was almost endless, Hersheiser's fighting power skyrocketed. Not only did he not fall behind in his battle with the Sky Dragon King, but he even had a slight advantage in controlling the overall situation. The dragon and the horse began to fight fiercely. The dragon's flames easily tore off half of the hell horse's body. However, the splattered foul-smelling poison also corroded the dragon's steel-like shell. The Sky Dragon King's eyes became increasingly cautious. Even with his steel body, he didn't want to touch such a terrifying poison. Therefore, he chose to attack from a distance to take the initiative. With a dragon roar, spherical lightning bolts rained down from the sky, crashing into Hersheiser. However, Hersheiser remained calm and pressed a button on his arm. Click! 2 rows of small shoulder cannons popped out of his shoulders and began firing continuously at the spherical lightning bolts in the air. Boom! 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 The special material of the miniature bullets had a special effect on supernatural powers. Although the spherical lightning bolts were very fast, the combat suits were equipped with an intelligent combat system that could lock onto targets and attack them. In a sense, this was a low-end version of precision shot. Hersheiser lowered his hands, and the pool of poisonous liquid formed by the rain at his feet began to surge. A huge poisonous dragon shot up into the sky and attacked the Sky Dragon King. The Sky Dragon King's face turned green. Hersheiser was clearly doing this to disgust him. He opened his mouth wide and spat out a torrent of dragon flames, quickly vaporizing the poisonous dragon. But at this moment, something strange happened to the rest of the pirate crew. The soldiers of disaster were frozen by Bailien's frost. Bailien thought that the problem had been temporarily under control. However, he did not expect that those soldiers of disaster would directly detonate themselves. As their bodies exploded, they turned into sticky, foul-smelling poisonous liquid and dark green poisonous mist. There were no mutants with wind attributes among them, and the only one who could suppress the poisonous mist, the Sky Dragon King, was not in front of them. Because of this, people were quickly affected. Even the slightest touch would corrode their simple combat uniforms. The poor-quality gas masks couldn't hold out for long against Hersheiser's poisonous mist. Once the purifying substance began to wear off, death awaited them. The gap between the ragtag army and the regular army was not even the same level in terms of weapons and equipment. Hersheiser, however, was completely indifferent, showing no joy or smugness. He was skilled in the use of poison, and he was in this kind of environment. As long as his opponents weren't particularly strong, it didn't matter if there were 100 of them or just one. Especially when he was bullying weak opponents, he had no rivals here. After Billy the Kid killed someone, he had to change the bullets in his gun. But here, he had an endless supply of ammunition. Although the Sky Dragon King saw the miserable state of his subordinates, he had no way to go back and help them at this moment. Facing an opponent of Hersheiser's level, any distraction could cost him his life. But how could he win? The Sky Dragon King was also faced with a huge dilemma. His greatest strength was his close combat skills, and in the ocean, with the body of a Dragon King, he was exceptionally powerful. But he didn't want to get anywhere near the guy in front of him. However, just as the Sky Dragon King was hesitating, he suddenly felt his vision shake. A feeling of drowsiness and exhaustion instantly enveloped him. The Sky Dragon King opened his eyes wide. What is this? He stared intently at Hersheiser, and his body instantly retreated hundreds of meters away. Then he growled, "When did you poison me?" The abnormality in his body made him immediately realize that he had been poisoned. Hersheiser did not answer his question. The answer was not difficult. The Sky Dragon King's methods could only resist tangible toxins, but not intangible ones. the hell horse was a poisonous beast he had created with his own stomach acid. As a carrier of the plague, every cell in Hersheiser's body contained deadly toxins. The reason he wrapped himself up tightly and wore a gas mask was not to protect himself. It was to protect others. Otherwise, anyone who came into contact with him would be poisoned in the shortest amount of time and die in agony. When the Sky Dragon King's dragon tore the hell horse to pieces, the deadly toxins spread into the air. They entered the Sky Dragon King's body as he breathed. Hersheiser took off his gas mask, revealing his ghostly, twisted face, which had been corroded by toxins. It was a face that was difficult to describe in words. His entire face was deathly pale, like a corpse that had been soaked in water for half a month. There was not a single strand of hair left, and the skin around his lips, nose, and eyes had been completely corroded away. The flesh on his face was twisted, and his features looked like building blocks randomly assembled by a 3-year-old child and placed on a face. "Slaughter them, souls of the underworld," he said, opening his mouth and spewing out a large amount of disgusting mucus. Thin needles protruded from his combat suit, piercing his skin and flowing out brown blood. The liquid flowed into the pool of poison at his feet, quickly turning it a deep black-brown color. One after another, poisonous monsters crawled out of the pool like nightmares, roaring as they charged toward the Sky Dragon King and his subordinates. The Sky Dragon King was terrified by the scene before him. Even though he had experienced countless bloody battles, he had never seen such hellish creatures before. The extreme discomfort in his body continued to spread. He forced himself to suppress it with his powerful physique and supernatural abilities, but he couldn't help but let a stream of black poisonous blood flow from the corner of his mouth. "We can't continue fighting. This battle is completely unequal." Realizing this, the Sky Dragon King decisively swung his tail in midair and rushed towards Bai Lian and the others. At this moment, the other members of the pirate crew were also suffering. Although they were not facing Hersheiser himself, but only the disaster soldiers he had created, the poison had already corroded many of them into skeletons. Bai Lian used her frost power to form a magnificent frost armor around himself, desperately resisting the corrosion of the poison. Hersheiser single-handedly defeated the entire Sky Dragon pirates. Even the Sky Dragon King had no good way to fight Hersheiser. He was a fierce man, but his reckless courage was worthless in the face of an absolute difference in strength. The Sky Dragon King's eyes were cold and terrifying. If he risked being poisoned, he would definitely have a chance to get close to Hersheiser and try to kill him. But now he was exposed to the Columbia Navy. Even if he killed Hersheiser, he would not escape death. After much deliberation, the Sky Dragon King made a decision. He used his dragon clone to block Hersheiser's attack, then turned sharply in midair and rushed towards his crew. At this moment, every member of the Sky Dragon pirates was in agony. Some had already been poisoned by the poison, turning into monsters that were half human and half ghost, looking pitiful beyond belief. Without a word, the Sky Dragon King used his tail to roll up his deputy captain Bai Lian and flew away. "Lord Sky Dragon King, we're not with you yet." The other members of the crew shouted anxiously and painfully. But the Sky Dragon King ignored their cries. In such an environment, the weak mutants were unable to have any impact on the battlefield. They had already helped the Sky Dragon King get close to Mist Valley, and each of them was severely poisoned. Taking them with them would only be a burden. The Sky Dragon King was the leader of the pirates. He was ruthless and merciless, and he would certainly abandon his useless subordinates without hesitation. "Thank you for your contributions to the pirate crew over the years." The Sky Dragon King left only these words behind before flying away. The remaining pirates were furious and cursed loudly. "Li Fengxian, you despicable bastard. We'll go down and wait for you. You'll die for sure, you'll die for sure. You'll never get the source of God." However, after the Sky Dragon King and Bai Lian left, they were even more unable to resist the onslaught of Hersheiser's soldiers of disaster. Soon, accompanied by a chorus of screams, all of them were corroded by the poisonous gas and turned into pools of blood and pus. Hersheiser looked at the Sky Dragon King and Bai Lian as they flew away, with no intention of pursuing them. He calmly reported to the command center. 2 people have escaped, the captain of the pirate crew, Li Fengxian, and the deputy captain, Bai Lian. It would be completely irrational to chase after flying dragons in the sky. Hersheiser wasn't that stupid, and he certainly wasn't going to leave the ground, which was the most advantageous environment for him. After hearing the report, General Horn frowned. That guy isn't going to be easy to kill. Lieutenant Colonel McGrady, who was standing next to him, said, even if he's not a mutant trained by the military, he still has a supernatural ability index of 9,800 on paper. If he's determined to escape, it won't be easy to kill him. Hersheiser was good at stationary combat, not pursuits. General Horn took a lit cigar from his secretary and took a deep drag. Then he said with some annoyance, I'm afraid this guy will become a hidden danger on the battlefield. He wasn't worried about the cooperation between the Sky Dragon King and the Huashu Kingdom. The conflict between the Sky Dragon Pirates and the Huashu Kingdom was much greater than theirs. The Sky Dragon King left the area with Bai Lian and landed in a quiet area after a long time. After Bai Lian jumped from the Sky Dragon King's tail to the ground, he couldn't help but kneel down. His face was frighteningly pale, and he covered his mouth with his hand and coughed heavily. Soon, black blood overflowed from his mouth. The Sky Dragon King returned to his human form, took a bottle of medicine from his body, and threw it to Bai Lian. Are you okay? Bai Lian opened the lid of the antidote and drank the medicine. His face regained some color, but he still looked very weak. Bai Lian struggled to his feet and said apologetically to the Sky Dragon King, I'm sorry, Lord Sky Dragon King, for causing you trouble. The Sky Dragon King snorted coldly, clenched his fists, and said with a cold gaze, damn the Columbia Navy. I did so many things for them, and in the end, they stabbed me in the back. It's all fake. In the end, you can only trust yourself. In this battle, almost all of the Sky Dragon Pirates elite were killed. However, the Sky Dragon King was not overly sad or regretful. In the beginning, he was also an insignificant fisherman who gradually grew to become the ruler of the South Sea. As long as he was strong enough, it wouldn't take long for him to build a team that was just as strong as the one he had before. After the end of the world, there were refugees everywhere, and a single mouthful of food could win him a useful subordinate. As long as Bai Lian was still alive, it would be fine. After Nerit's death in battle, he was the only captain-level fighter under the Sky Dragon King. Such talent was not easy to come by. After swallowing the antidote, Bai Lian's body was temporarily fine. He coughed lightly and said, Lord Sky Dragon King, we can't be reckless anymore. The mutants from Columbia have already appeared at the edge of Mist Valley, which means that the other major forces have also arrived in the vicinity. If we continue forward, we will definitely encounter the enemy. The Sky Dragon King looked at Bai Lian. Among the Sky Dragon Pirates, although Bai Lian possessed powerful combat strength, his most important role was still that of a strategist. He was very skilled at devising plans and strategies. When the Sky Dragon King first became a pirate and fought for supremacy with the heroes of the South Sea, he only had brute strength and did not gain much advantage. By chance, he encountered Bai Lian, who was starving to death at sea. Bai Lian was from the south of the Huashu Kingdom and had the same ancestral home as the Sky Dragon King. Out of this connection, he saved Bai Lian. Unexpectedly, Bai Lian used his intelligence and talent to help the Sky Dragon King continuously expand his power. He was a master of Sun Tzu's The Art of War, relative to those pirates, that is. Coupled with the scientific management knowledge he learned online and the Sky Dragon King's powerful fighting force, the Sky Dragon Pirates quickly rose to prominence and annexed dozens of pirate groups in the surrounding area. Eventually, they formed a kingdom in the Southeast Sea, with the Sky Dragon as king. Therefore, the Sky Dragon King particularly respected Bai Lian's opinion. Bai Lian, what do you think? Bai Lian lowered his voice and said, we have no chance of winning if we fight them head-on. We are at an absolute disadvantage in terms of our intelligence system, weapons and equipment, and the number of people. But we can wait. His eyes revealed a hint of malice. The Sky Dragon King's curiosity was aroused. Wait for what? Wait for them to fight each other. Bai Lian said firmly, they regard each other as their biggest rivals and don't really care about us. We might as well hide and wait for them to fight each other first. When they are almost finished, we will make our move. This tactic is called the fisherman reaps the benefits of the fight between the clam and the snail. After listening to Bai Lian, the Sky Dragon King nodded. The brief encounter with Hersheiser had made him keenly aware of the gap between himself and the powerful mutants. He was not weak, but when it came to fighting, the gap in preconditions was so great that he was unable to move freely. If there had been 2 members of Hell's Lock instead of 1, he would have had no chance of escaping. All right, I'll listen to you. Now we need to find a place to rest. As a mutant with a strong physique, Sky Dragon King could use time to slowly expel the poison from his body. As for Bai Lian, even if he had saved his life with the antidote, he would not be able to fight for a while. They had to lie low and wait for the battle between the major forces to break out. That was not difficult to notice. The top mutants of the major forces had all reached the peak of the Delta level. When such people fought, it would affect an area of at least tens of kilometers. The Sky Dragon King would definitely be able to sense such fluctuations. 3 days had passed since Jang Yi killed Vito Bardia. During those 3 days, he did not go on another hunt. Instead, he lay in wait, observing the movements on the battlefield. After all, he had killed one of Hell's Lock's generals. It was difficult to guarantee that the Colombian Navy Command Center would not be enraged and launch a large army to surround and attack Jang Yi. Therefore, Jang Yi found a deep basement, opened the 2 realms junction, sealed himself, Flower, and Lele inside, and lived there for 3 days. During those 3 days, he did not sense any danger of being searched for or hunted down. Jang Yi also recovered his energy and brought himself to peak condition. So he decided to take action again and hunt down the other mutants of the joint forces. Jang Yi reached out and patted Flower and Lele on the head. Let's go. 3 days is enough time for a lot to happen outside. Let's go join the fun. Meow. Woof woof. Jang Yi brought the cat and dog out of the underground. During the battle, he had basically figured out the terrain map of this area. The principle was actually very simple. Although Star Island could not be located by satellite due to the influence of poisonous miasma and a special magnetic field, the areas that had been passed through artificially could be mapped by an intelligent system. This was where the convenience of space ability came into play. He could quickly travel between major areas, so he already had maps of a large part of the area. After a quick look, Jang Yi said meaningfully, 10 days have passed without us noticing. Come to think of it, they must be close to Mist Valley by now. Approaching Mist Valley was not the end, but the beginning. Because everyone knew that their ultimate goal was the source of God buried underground in Mist Valley. Finding such an underground treasure in the vast Mist Valley was no easy task. Not to mention that as the poison circle closed in, enemies would frequently appear around them. Fighting had become inevitable. Everyone had to be even more careful. Jang Yi opened the dimensional gate and said to Flower and Lele, let's go, we're going too. Fish began to gather, and the fishermen should be ready with their guns. Jang Yi led the cat and dog forward, and soon they reached the edge of Mist Valley. He stopped and didn't rush into that terrifying area. Instead, he let Lele go ahead to scout and see if there were any enemies nearby. Lele's nose pressed against the ground and began to use his natural ability to capture the lingering scent in the air. After a while, Lele suddenly pricked up his ears, his eyes flashing brightly as he stared in a certain direction. Boss, there's something good. Jang Yi asked curiously, oh? What is it? Lele turned his head to look at him, and due to his excessive excitement, his big paws dug into the ground. We've seen it before, that kind of energy body. Jang Yi's eyes lit up. The companion of the source? That was indeed a good thing. Since Jang Yi had encountered it, he certainly wouldn't miss it. But this time, he didn't choose to take Flower and Lele with him. Instead, he said to Flower and Lele, you two stay here and don't move. Flower looked at Jang Yi in confusion. Although he didn't say anything, his eyes were a little surprised. His master was usually so steady, but this time he wasn't taking him along and was going alone? At this moment, Jang Yi had already opened the Two Realms junction and started to change his clothes. When Flower saw the combat uniform on Jang Yi, his eyes went wide. "Master, why are you wearing the clothes of the Columbia mutants?" Jang Yi said lightly, "Since we're going for excitement, let's go all the way." That's right, he was wearing the combat uniform of Bardia. "The joint forces have already set their sights on me. As soon as I show up, they will quickly identify me based on my personal characteristics. Those who can't beat me will run away immediately, and those who can fight me will call for backup. It's better to disguise myself so they don't know my true strength." A cat and a dog were the most obvious characteristics of Jang Yi. Other than that, there was nothing else. Jang Yi acted alone and changed his clothes. Even if others could tell that he was not a mutant from Columbia, they would not be able to figure out who he was in a short period of time. This brief hesitation was enough for him to do many things. Lele immediately praised, "Boss, you're so awesome. You're really too smart." Only Flower was speechless, muttering under his breath, "Is it really necessary? With your current strength, who on this island can threaten you?" Jang Yi heard this and just smiled slightly, better safe than sorry. Just as Jang Yi was making preparations, Lele discovered the direction of the origin elves. At this moment, someone had already appeared there. Deep in the poisonous mist, there was an area that was not shrouded in mist. The hazy moonlight created a peaceful environment. More than a dozen origin elves were either sitting on the ground or lying on the walls of the ruins, looking very content as they swayed their heads and closed their eyes to the melodious music. In the center of them was a large spirit, a mysterious creature with white fur and antlers on its head. It held a long flute in its hands and played enchanting music. However, this peaceful scene did not last long. A person walked out of the mist. He had long hair, his forehead covered with a black headband, and his eyes were surrounded by smoky makeup in a style reminiscent of a punk rocker. When he saw the elves in front of him, an exaggerated smile appeared on his face. "Ha ha ha, origin elves, and there's even a big one." Sure enough, in Mist Valley, even the NPCs are of a higher level. The man with smoky makeup laughed unrestrainedly, leaning back exaggeratedly. At this moment, another person walked out from not far away. This person had red hair and a long, simple samurai sword at his waist. Seeing the expression on the smoky-eyed man's face, he said coldly, "Otaku, put away your nonsense. Making noise here is dangerous." The smoky-eyed man said with some dissatisfaction, "I'm making noise because I'm in the right." The red-haired man shook his head helplessly. If it weren't for the fact that this guy was strong enough, he really wouldn't want to act with him. "Now, while no one else has noticed, put that thing away." The red-haired man stared at the Totoro-like creature, a flash of heat in his eyes. This guy's origin is equivalent to a high-level Delta-level mutant. When the two appeared, the elves did not move. However, when they showed their evil intentions, Totoro's song immediately stopped. The little elves panicked and fled behind it. Totoro's originally cute and innocent eyes suddenly became fierce. "Ha!" It opened its blood-red mouth and let out a sharp roar. White moonlight instantly swept out in all directions, and the raging supernatural storm blew the thick poisonous mist back hundreds of meters. The red-haired man and the man with the smoky makeup seemed to have been prepared for this. They remained calm and unhurried, and powerful supernatural abilities also erupted from their bodies, blocking the force of the impact. The companion creatures of the Source of God are very magical beings. They possessed extremely powerful life energy within their bodies. However, they could only rely on their instincts to fight. That was why the man with the smoky makeup called them NPCs. One only needed to see through their fighting style to quickly kill them by entangling them in combat. Then one could obtain a sufficient amount of pure energy origin. That was something even captain-level mutants coveted. But before the two could move, they sensed a presence approaching from another direction. Their eyes immediately grew wary. They looked over and saw a slender figure slowly emerging from the thick toxic mist. It was a tall woman with the striking waist-to-hip ratio and bust size characteristic of Western women. Through her combat uniform, the two recognized her identity. There was only one female member of Hell's Lock. Her code name was Medusa. Oh no, why is it her? The red-haired man and the man with smoky makeup frowned when they saw her. If they encountered a member of Hell's Lock here, they would be in trouble. This time, they were here to assist Hell's Lock. The two sides were allies, not enemies. If everyone found the origin elves, it would be difficult for them to take them all for themselves. The mist behind Medusa swirled, and a huge, colorful figure appeared. When she realized there were other people here, she immediately prepared for battle. Medusa, Judy Christina, Ability Index 9,600 points. Although her ability index was not high among the members of Hell's Lock, she had an advantage that others did not have. That was her partner, a mutant beast with an ability index of 9,500 points, the Blood Snake King. That's right, it was a highly poisonous spotted snake, not a python. Pythons are non-venomous and toothless, but the Blood Snake King had both the venom and fangs of a poisonous snake and the body of a giant python. With this poisonous pet, Christina's true combat power was on par with the upper echelons of Hell's Lock. Christina spotted the two in front of her, and the command center immediately sent her their information. These two are from the Neon Pelican Group's mutant unit, Takamagara. The redhead is Amaterasu, and the guy with the black eye is Susanoo. Christina knew that these two were from Neon and were allies, so she smiled mischievously. She twisted her body and walked gracefully to the side. On one hand, she kept a safe distance from the two from Takamagara, and on the other hand, she blocked Totoro's retreat. What a coincidence, you guys are here too. As allies, I don't think we should fight over these origin elves, right? Amaterasu, the great god Hongwan, narrowed his eyes slightly. Of course, we are allies, we shouldn't fight at a time like this. Susanoo, the sea god, said somewhat anxiously, we came here to help. Isn't Hell's Lock the target of the source of God? Are you going to fight us over this? Christina smiled contemptuously, crossing her arms to emphasize her ample bosom. If it's something good, there's no reason to miss out. Besides, the amount of divine source is limited, and not everyone has the opportunity to obtain it. General Horn could see everything from the command center. However, the Allied forces were not directly under their command. If they wanted to contact them, they had to go through the person in charge of Neon. General Horn thought about it and decided not to interfere. According to their agreement, except for the source of God, which must belong to the Columbia military, there was no clear agreement on other acquisitions. Therefore, the Twaya were fully entitled to the origin elves. However, even if General Horn didn't say anything, on a battlefield like this, they still had to save face for the Columbia Navy. Christina said with a smile, okay, since we all found it, then to be fair, let's split it 50-50. Each side gets half. The two frowned, clearly disagreeing with this distribution. Great God Hongwan said indifferently, there are 3 of us here, you took half, and you want us to split the other half, that's obviously unreasonable. If you ask me, it should be divided into 3 parts. Christina snorted. Behind her, the Blood Snake King, which was more than 20 meters long, opened its mouth and spat out a blood-red tongue. A burst of hot air instantly melted the solid ice on the ground, turning the soil dark black. If you put it that way, then how can my baby not count as one? Right, Million? She reached out and stroked the Orochi snake's head, and it let out a hiss, agreeing with Christina's opinion. Great God Hongwan and the Great Sea Tide looked unhappy. Let their mutant beasts share such good things with humans? This was difficult for them to accept. But suddenly, the leader of the Pelican organization on the Neon side said something to them. Great God Hongwan and the Great Sea Tide's expressions changed slightly, but they understood that they were no match for the Columbia Navy. If they caused a commotion, they would only suffer losses.